Folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Reckon with the Crew. That's right, folks. It is a brand new offering brought to you by the good folks at Whiskers and Whiskeys. And we have a couple of very, very special guests with us. It's EJ and Whiskey Joe. What's up, boys? How we doing?
Doing great.
Pretty good.
Folks,
Can't complain.
This is going to be a new podcast style that we're bringing out to you guys, and it is in in addition to, is supplementary to a new offering we're bringing you guys online called Home Field Advantage. That's right, folks. If you've ever been, kind of like us, eager to go out, visit some new places, travel some new cities, and take in a sports game while you're at it, Home Field Advantage is going to be your one-stop shop. We're kind of compiling all of our knowledge and knowledge of many of our friends. We're going to have some other special guests on. Not that EJ and Joe aren't special, but, you hear from them all the time. Let's get some fresh perspective in here. And basically, we're just going to be taking you through like all the ins and outs, do's and don'ts of and helping you have that home field advantage when you're away from home, traveling to see your favorite teams play. Or, maybe you're just on a trip catching, hey, I'm in Tampa. Might as well catch a Bucks game, right? So stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, this genesis just came, or the genesis of this idea just came from Joe and I have traveled. We had a nice little stretch there of going to road games for the Lions because we haven't lived in Michigan, since we graduated high school. So we always have to kind of catch our teams on the road. And it's just kind of my mindset, just how I'm, work is when I go to a new city, I like to know, like, well, what are some cool bars? What are the things I need to eat and what are some of the best eats in the city? But it's really hard to find that information. Like every time I go, it's very hit or miss.
Right.
A blog here, a blog there, maybe that
Right.
has bits and pieces of what I'm looking for. So because we have traveled to a decent amount of cities, and Mike alluded to, we have friends that also have knowledge, and we just thought it'd be great to create a guide, a travel guide, an ultimate sports travel guide for everyone, and hopefully it'll be a guide for the people, made by the people. So we're really excited about this.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about DC, right? There's so many different people from so many different areas, and we we're taking advantage of that knowledge, and we're putting it together for the masses here. We're basically your chat GPT for all of your travel needs, right? So,
but we love the robots. So if they're listening here, we don't want to upset them. They are awesome.
Yeah, we don't want to upset our overlords. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts about LLMs and what that means for the future, but that's a different podcast. That's Whiskers and Whiskeys presents. I don't know. We'll workshop that. That's in beta. That's in beta. All right. So what we're gonna do here, folks, is I am gonna be interviewing EJ and Joe, walking you guys kind of through like the format of what this podcast is going to look like. And, so we figured, might as well start with the guys who have a bunch of good recommendations for the city of Detroit Motor City, coming off an interesting draft. I'm pretty, it seems like a mixed bag of reviews on the drafts, but you know what? I think Dan Campbell went as God's men. I think you guys should be very happy. And at the end of the day, who knows? I mean, these kids are, haven't played a snap of NFL football. Who knows? I still remember that draft where the Seahawks got like a D-, and it ended up being like the foundation for the Legion of Boom. So it's like, who really knows with all this stuff? So anyways, let's get into it. So boys, I am curious. We've never really talked to these. Are some good questions. We've never really talked about that. What is like your earliest memory of your Lions fandom?
EJ, you want to start?
Yeah. So it's crazy for me because I think my perspective is a little different than Joe's, because unfortunately, I don't really remember watching Barry play, which is a terrible thing. He definitely retired when I was a kid, but
Mhm.
I just don't have very vivid memories of him actually like playing on the field, even though I'm sure I had watched a couple games. But
Mhm.
my first ever Lions game, and this is kind of one of my earliest moments, was my dad got preseason tickets for when they were at the stadium before where they're at now, the Silverdome, and
Mhm.
it was like 50-yard line, a couple rows back, and
Nice.
yeah, it was just a lot of fun. And that was my first ever football game, and that was really like I think when I started to pay a little closer attention, because when I was a kid, hockey was more of what I watched
Yeah.
more than football. So
Well, they had, how old were you? Like what year was this?
that's a great question.
Because
I
the
probably
Wings
would have
were, I
been
mean,
like,
super strong in the
yeah,
early 90s. So yeah.
it would have been like, yeah, 8, 9 or 10. So around the
Yeah.
time the Wings had won those cups.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so football wasn't commanding your full attention, but yeah,
No.
I get it. I mean, I remember seeing like slash play and stuff. Not that Cordell Stewart's on the same level as Barry Sanders, right? But like, I don't remember like O'Donnell, right? And other of my peers remember that, but I didn't really start paying attention at that time. So I get you. It's like acquired. You have to get into it, and you really don't. As a kid, you don't realize the greatness that you're potentially missing, not seeing on the field, right?
Yeah.
So, Joe, how about you?
For me, it's a little bit different. I do remember Barry playing. I guess one of my first memories, I mean, just watching him on TV every Sunday, but the most vivid, I guess, would be I was at the game when Barry Sanders broke the 2,000-yard record, or hit
Nice.
2,000 for the 97 season, I think it was.
What
Yeah,
was
so that
that
was
like?
it was loud. So I was at the Pontiac Silverdome, which is no longer a thing. Now it's a
Along with Pontiac.
I think it's a parking lot actually. I think they park like VWs or some automaker parks extra cars there. But the game itself, I went with my uncle. He took me, and it was so loud. I can't. I mean, it's hard to compare it because it was so long ago. But we did go to Seattle. We saw a game in Seattle, and that was pretty loud. But this was
Mhm,
in the
mhm.
dome. And I do remember they had to stop the game. And I asked my uncle, I remember saying, what are they doing? Why aren't they playing? And he said it's so loud they stopped the game because the refs couldn't hear the whistles, like they couldn't hear anything. So
They
that was
built
pretty
those
cool.
old domes, man, with
Yeah,
like, I mean, like Mel Arena was like that too. Like just the way the sound just echoed in there. That's awesome, man. That's a great thing that you got to do, and like that's something you'll remember forever for
for
sure.
sure. Yeah.
So how long have you guys had season tickets for?
Yeah, so it was one of those things where Joe and I think we had gone um on a couple of trips by this point. I think we had gone, well, we went to Pittsburgh kind of together, kind of separate, and then we had already gone to New York. And so we decided, let's see how expensive tickets were, and um and they weren't. They weren't nearly as expensive as they probably should have been. But yeah, I think it was the 2015 season, which was when we went to Seattle. And we'll say we had a really awesome story that happened to us in Seattle. But yeah, I think we got them, I
Oh, you
believe,
gotta tell
in
it. You gotta
2015.
tell it now.
Well, it might come up a little later. You might
Okay,
ask me
okay,
a
a little
question
teaser.
a little
Sure.
later
Little
Yeah.
teaser. Okay, all right.
that might be able to answer that. But yeah, so about 2015.
All right. No, have you guys like improved your seats throughout the years, or like where you guys like sitting?
Yeah, so we started lower level, which was nice. Lower level corner, so about the section before it becomes technically sideline. So we're
Gotcha.
kind of in an end zone, but the corner of the end zone, but because the prices change, as you get
Yeah,
closer to
yeah.
the middle of the
Hmm.
field. But we were on
And
the
the team
away.
gets better.
Yeah, exactly. And we started on the opposite side of the field, opposite of the tunnel. So the road side, which kind of stunk because that's where a lot of road fans sit. And throughout the years, we were able to get closer to the actual tunnel and about as far down as you can get before again the price changed, because
Now, do
it's a
you
little
do you
bit of a
want to
sweet
be
spot.
near the tunnel? Like that's something like you want to be the first thing the guys see when they're coming on the field, like hooping up for them. Like is that the goal?
Yeah, it was like I think it was just nice to be on the home side, and I think it just kind of happened that it was in that tunnel corner versus the other home side corner. But no, it's a great spot, and it's obviously being in Virginia, we aren't able to go all the time. So we
Mhm.
also wanted to try and find tickets that would be attractive to sell as well.
Yeah,
And
Even if
the
that means the away fans sometimes.
right, yeah. Take whatever you can get. And honestly, the reason why they are still, still have the tickets is because Lions fans are crazy, and even when we're bad, tickets still sell. So
yeah.
until
That's a big theme on the radio too. It's like the radio broadcasters are always, everyone complains that the Lions have been so bad for so many years, but they ask, why do you still go to the games? Why do you still support the team and the
Mhm,
ownership
mhm,
when you're so pissed that they're that bad and you want
mhm.
change? Why do you keep supporting them? But it's kind of like, what do? Do you just stop watching, stop going? Like,
yeah.
so
Yeah, yeah.
something you haven't had to deal with, Mike.
No, I actually have with the Pirates. I
That's
mean,
true.
I
Yeah.
was a Pirates season ticket holder whenever I was living in Pittsburgh. Not now, but no, I mean, and there were people that walk around. I mean, now the Pirates are the hottest team in baseball, boys. So
Yeah,
I
I know.
can't relate, but yeah, I mean, and but yeah, as a Pirates fan, I had some season tickets, and yeah, I mean, it's people would walk around, at opening day, like don't go in, like boycott the team and stuff like that. It's like, it's just stupid, man. Like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's your team, it's your franchise. Like, go and have some fun. Like, even if they suck, like, it is what it is, man. It's still a bad day at the ballpark's better than good day doing much of anything else, right? So
Yeah,
that's
and
my point of view.
yeah, and it's always one of those things where I get the concept, but ultimately, especially in the NFL, like they profit share. Like they're going to be okay. Like
Yeah, they're gonna be all right.
if people don't show up, like the money, they're still going to make
Yeah.
money. But
Yeah,
They've already made their money.
right. And I guess as Taylor Swift said, like, hi, I'm the problem. It's me. And
it's me. Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
yeah. That's preach, brother. Shout out Taylor Swift. All right. Well, thanks guys for getting that little overview of the fandom and kind of your point of view on going to games and everything. And now let's dive into the D a little bit here. Let's talk a little bit about the D itself. So Detroit, which I have never been to, but what I can tell from talking to you fine gentlemen and the script that's in front of me is that it is a very condensed city and very walkable. So there's a lot of food, a lot of bars, like whatever you want. You don't have to stumble too far to find a place that's gonna hit your needs. And we're gonna do a little quick sip here. We're gonna do a quick sip of ratings and boys, the categories. So our quick sips ratings are gonna be scaled 1 to 10. No decimals, right? Maybe decimals. Who knows? We'll see how we're feeling. And we got a couple categories here. So starting off, walkability. I'm assuming that's pretty high, right, fellas?
Yeah, definitely. And Joe, you can give your point of view and your experiences, but Detroit is actually, I believe, I mean, there aren't too many cities that have all 4 sports teams because or all 4 like professional sports in the city. But Detroit has the most like condensed for all 4 sports teams, so they're the closest of any city. They're the closest, and because everything's like really just kind of like, I keep using the word condensed, but it really is downtown.
Close proximity.
Yes, close proximity. There's a lot of bars. There's a lot of bars, a lot of restaurants, and everything is designed to be within, I don't know, maybe like a 10 block radius or so.
That's nice.
Yeah, and that wasn't always the case for
No.
people that aren't too familiar. I don't know if you know, Mike. For years, I mean, growing up for us, all 4 teams weren't in the city.
Okay.
The Pistons and the Lions both played in Pontiac or Auburn Hills. So the Pistons played at the Palace. I'm sure you've heard of it. That was closed down, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. I'm not sure what year, but they closed that down, demolished it, moved both the Lions have been down there for a while, but then they moved the Red Wings and the Pistons to Little Caesars Arena, which is right across the street from Comerica Park, which is right behind Ford Field. So they're all,
okay,
I would say, 2 blocks away from each other.
Yeah.
Back to back like that.
Yeah. So it wasn't always the case, but it's nice now. It's called the District Detroit, and you can easily walk between all 4 stadiums or all 4 teams venues in 5 minutes.
I think Philly's like that now because Philly has like their Philly Live thing, and they have their I don't know if if the Phillies ballpark is down there too, but I know for sure that the football field and the basketball hockey arena is like right next to each other.
Yeah, Joe and I actually have been to Philly. We
Yeah.
went to a hockey game. So they actually all share a parking lot. It's just one big compound. The
Mhm.
problem is it's a little bit away from downtown, so like you
Right,
can't really
right.
walk to like any bars or anything.
Yeah, it's far. It's far. It's
but
out there.
they are all
in,
right there.
But in Detroit, they're all together, but they're all downtown, so you can walk to
Yeah,
everything.
so that's another thing to keep an eye on too. If you're going to a Lions game in October and the Tigers are good, you might have overlap, and you got to watch for parking. You got to watch for. You might be able to catch both games, to be honest. Like,
no, yeah,
so that's something else to keep an eye on because they're literally across the street from each other. So, that could be an issue or a blessing. Depends on how you're looking at it.
So real quick, walkability, quick sip, 1 to 10, EJ.
Yeah, I'd say it's like a 9. It's about as high as of a place that I've ever been to.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a huge city, so there's plenty of stuff around, stuff to do, bars, restaurants, you name it, all around those venues. So yeah, I'd agree with that. It's a 9.
And Joe, transitioning from walkability is something that you mentioned, parking. What's your quick sip rating on the tailgating scene for Lions games?
Tailgates, it's not bad. I think it's probably about a 7. It's there are parking lots that the team sponsors, owns, whatever you want to call it. They charge you for it, but there's also privately owned lots all kind of scattered throughout. And I think we might be able to kind of post some stuff about that too. But those are pretty easy to get to as well. And everyone, like, once you start going to games, whether it's Lions or Red Wings or whatever, you kind of find the lots that you grow accustomed to, and you just continually like visit those ones. And you might even get to know the owner, or get to know the guy working it, which might be the same person. And yeah, you usually end up just kind of using the same lot every time you go, which is probably pretty common in most places.
Nice. All right, accessibility. EJ, do you want to define accessibility for the people here?
Yeah. So my the line of thinking around that category was just to explain to everyone the different ways to get into downtown. So if you are traveling, like maybe you're staying in a hotel outside of the city, because there are obviously a few downtown, but definitely during game days they can be expensive, and there's some relatively cheap ones, maybe within 30 minutes drive on the highway. So accessibility was there like more than just driving, right? Everyone can drive into a city, but is there other options to get to downtown and get near the stadiums?
Gotcha.
So in any city, so we kind of try to rate that for people.
Gotcha. And what is your quick sip rating for accessibility?
Yeah, so I would say I put it at a 6. So there isn't like a subway system or anything that extends outside of the city to get you down there. There aren't like a ton of like buses or anything like that, or like I said, like not like a metro metro rail or anything like that. But getting downtown, because there's a lot of major highways that all kind of converge around the city, makes it easy to get. It's not like in a rural area or anything like that. So that's why it's not like super accessible, like, and there's not a ton of options, but if you are going to drive, it's pretty painless, to be honest, to get there.
Gotcha. And then last quick sip rating category, family friendly. So how's this for the kiddos?
Well, we haven't tested it out yet, but I would say we're actually going up later this end of the summer, so I can follow up on that. But I'd say it's pretty good. It's EJ, would you say 7?
Yeah, I mean, it might even be a little higher. That's probably on the lower end, the conservative end, I'd probably say.
Yeah, not so much in the winter, depending on if you're going for the Lions game in December, that's going to be rough. But in the summer for Tigers or whatever it may be, like there's by Campus Martius or in Campus Martius, which is the kind of the heart of the city. They bring in trucks of sand and they make it like a beach, and they have like tiki bars and stuff.
Oh,
It's pretty
nice.
cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and there's kids playing everywhere. So that, and then, well, in the winter, I take it back. They turn that same area into an ice skating rink. There's Christmas trees everywhere, and it's all decorated. So I guess
Nice.
no matter what the season is, there still is stuff for families, whether it's restaurants or stuff like that to do. It's kind of a little bit different.
Yeah, and right outside. So basically, like you can throw a rock from Ford Field and hit like Comerica Park, and you don't have to be an athlete to do it. They're literally separated by one small road, and they usually close
It's usually
those
closed
roads.
down, yeah.
Yeah, those roads down, and they have like zip lining, and they have games, and then they'll have like some food trucks, and you can drink, and so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty family friendly, and there's a lot of other options, right? It's not just like bars and pubs. There's restaurants and stuff. So if you're bringing your kids, you don't have to go to like a crowded, potentially rowdy bar before the game. You can find like a restaurant to sit down at.
Nice.
So yeah, so I'd say 7 actually might be a little low. Maybe bump it up to an 8 is probably where
Sure.
probably what I would say.
Nice. And then one other fun fact here, Viva Las Vegas. Forget that. Viva La Detroit. There are 3 casinos in downtown Detroit: Greektown, MGM Grand, Motor City, and then just across the river in Canada, you got another one, right, boys?
Caesars.
So if you're
Caesars, yep.
if you got the itch, you can go ahead and
Caesar does
and
live there too.
roll the bones. He does live there.
Yeah, he doesn't live in the Vegas one. He actually lives in
That's his vacation spot.
The Windsor
one. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into our home field advance questions to really help kind of flesh out some of these sections for the guide. So let's focus first on our game day recommendations. So guys, walk me through a little bit more about the tailgating situation when we're down there. We're getting ready for the Lions game. What are things looking like as far as the tailgating scene goes?
Yeah, so Joe made a great point how he was describing it. There are a lot of different options between like close proximity to Ford Field. So there's like a parking garage that's technically connected to Comerica, but like we had mentioned, it's so close that they use it for Lions games. Would recommend avoiding that because it's a parking garage. So that can be very hard to get in and out of if you're in a hurry. And there's I'm not sure. I don't think you can tailgate in that. I guess that makes sense. But there's plenty of other lots. So like Joe was saying, it's really pick your poison. But if you're looking for the lot that would, have some of the super fans at, like there's some fans that are famous for having a hot tub. They have like a portable hot tub that they take to games. And that is in a place called Eastern Market. So that's about a mile walk from the stadium. And it's a really awesome place because there's a lot of, it actually has like a market, right? That's the genesis of it, but there's a lot of restaurants and bars surrounding that area as well. But they tailgate in the areas where they would typically have the market. So that's typically, Eastern Market is typically like, if you're looking for maybe, a rowdier tailgate or a tailgate, you feel comfortable is going to have a lot of people at, that's your area.
Got it. And how am I getting there? Like, am I driving in, like parked nearby? Like, I know, Joe, you mentioned a lot of private spots nearby, like, or, something like you guys kind of mentioned some other ways of getting into the games. What's the best bet on game day of how to get in there? Like, should I, try to Uber in, walk around? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah, so I would recommend, one, you can prepay for your spot. I think you actually have to. So that kind of gives you the ease of mind about, trying to get there super early and rushing to make sure you have a spot. You can prepay, and on our website, we have a link for that for everyone. But yeah, so you would just drive to Eastern Market. But yeah, you just pick your spot beforehand and drive in, and there you go.
Yeah, earlier the better is typically the kind of rule that you want to follow. And on top of the tailgate in Eastern Market, there's a fan. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's like a fan zone. They do, and it's right in front of the stadium. It's actually parallel or kind of right along the street between Comerica and Ford Field. There's Brush Street, and then there's also Adams Street. And Adams goes along Ford Field, and then along Comerica and perpendicular to Ford Field. and they do like a fan zone with like kids like zip lines and face painting and all kinds of 40-yard dash and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They usually
yeah.
do that. It's not necessarily tailgating, but it's I mean, it kind of is. You can bring your family and kids there, but
Yeah, family
they
friendly
also,
stuff,
I think I think you can drink out there actually. So
Yeah, they sell both liquor and
Yeah.
beer. So if you're looking for that, that's called Pride Plaza. If
That's what
you're
it is, yep.
curious, yeah. But yeah, so that's another good spot too. But you can't really go wrong. I mean, any parking lot for the most part is going to have tailgaters.
Yep.
So you really can't go wrong.
Now, before I get in to the tailgate, let's say I wanna put a nice layer of food on the tummy. Where am I going? Where am I going to get some good eats?
Oof.
So there's one place, because like it's tough, because obviously if you're there to tailgate, you're typically cooking your own food.
Yeah,
And there are great food areas and restaurants and bars that we'll get to in a little bit. But before the game, Detroit is very famous for one particular food, and that is coney dogs. And I don't know if I'm gonna actually post this on YouTube yet. I haven't decided, but for our listeners that can't see my shirt, I have a shirt that says I get my coney dogs in Detroit, because that's where you get them. I know other places claim to have conies, but they're not really coney dogs. So a coney dog, for the listeners, if you,
pretenders.
right, if you're not familiar, is a like a chili dog. So it's a hot dog that has like a more runny chili on top, and it's topped with onions and mustard. And there are two places to go. I mean, there's more than two, but there are two very famous places. They are next door to each other. They share a wall, and it's basically like Romeo and Juliet. You're either one
Sharks
or
and the
other.
Jets, Mike
Yes.
using the Capulets.
There's been quite a few different food reviews done on this plate. Like you could Google it and you can see them anywhere.
Yeah. So it's the two places are Lafayette Coney and American Coney, and both are. I'll speak for myself. I am definitely a Lafayette guy. I have eaten at American, but I always try to go to Lafayette. And it's awesome. It has just like an old school, very like smaller, old, has pictures of like famous Red Wings and athletes and stuff on the walls, and it's really cool. But definitely Lafayette Coney is
more of a diner feel.
Yeah,
kind of a dirty diner feel. Whereas American's more commercialized. It's got the red, white, and blue banners and stuff, and it's just completely different kind of vibe inside. But I'm also Team Lafayette. We went there a couple years back for a wedding, I think it was, and we did kind of both of them and tried them out. And my wife is also Team Lafayette. So
nice. There you go. Gotta keep her. So Lafayette's more of a greasy spoon kind of vibe, and American's a little bit more commercialized.
But there's also other places that are not as well known. That I know EJ's got one particular, but there's other places, Coney places within the city that might be worth trying out.
Nice. Well, what are some of those? Let's talk about like the weekend overall. We talked a little bit about the tailgating situation and what we're doing on game day, but the weekend overall, like, what are some of those other places that we can go get something to eat at?
So I would say outside of Coney's, another thing that Detroit's very famous for is Detroit style pizza. And there's and one particular. So for anyone that has not had Detroit style pizza, it's like a mix between like a Sicilian square pizza and like it's a pan pizza, but it's not heavy. It looks really heavy, but that's when you know it's a really good one. Is it's thicker, but it's light and airy. But there's one place that reigns supreme. It's the original. It's the OG. And there's other great places, but if you're going to Detroit, you gotta try Buddy's. So Buddy's is the original Detroit style pizza. I will say I have been. The original location is in Detroit, but it is not downtown. And quite frankly, it's in not a safe place. But I have been there, and they do take precautions, so I'm not dissuading anyone if they want to venture out. It's still in Detroit, but it's like northeast of downtown, so you kind of get towards like Midtown, and it's either northeast or northwest. I can't remember exactly where, but it's really in the middle of nowhere. It's just kind of by itself, but it's very cool. It's very old. It's like original. I actually took my in-laws there. and it just has like a very like
Took him to
smoky
the hood one.
bar. Yeah, yeah. We went like for lunch. It was fine. It wasn't it
It's
was a
one right
dark
across
out.
from Comerica, and you take him to this
Well, that's what I was going to
sketchy
get to.
one, huh?
So the one downtown had not been downtown yet. So
Oh,
we
okay.
wanted to do one in Detroit, not necessarily in the suburbs because there are some in Metro Detroit, but Buddy's Pizza. So Buddy's Pizza is recommending. And then I was just going to kind of kick it to you, Joe, because you've been to the downtown location.
Yeah.
So how is that location?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's inside, it's a pizza joint. It's not anything. It's a restaurant. You're there for one thing, and it's the Detroit style pizza. So it's not it's a sports bar, honestly. It's nice, but that's not what you're going for. They've got games on, they've got, kind of that sports bar vibe. Yeah, we sat down, we got I think you can get them by the slice. I think we end up getting four. But yeah, they're all the same. So you can get them. Ann Arbor's got one. They've got one in Royal Oak. They've got one in Detroit. They've got the ghetto one. So you can pretty much get the same thing at all of them. So yeah, my wife is from New York, and she claims that Buddy's is now her favorite style pizza, her favorite pizza
Wow.
of anywhere. Yeah.
Wow.
So we've actually gone to the extreme of you can order online, you can order frozen or half baked
Yeah.
Buddies, and then you get it, it's frozen, and then you can just throw it in the oven for an hour, or however long, and then it's good to go.
That's quite an endorsement to sway the New Yorker from.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Detroit style, but I don't know. Maybe I have to go out and try Buddies, I guess. All right, what else? What else we got? Any other good spots to eat at, boys?
Yeah, and I would say like staying on the pizza train here. If square or Detroit style isn't your style, there's also a really great place in Eastern Market that we were talking about. So you're again about a mile walking from downtown, and it's called Supino's. So Supino's is great. It's more of like a Neapolitan style pizza, like almost it's like a mix, I would say, maybe between like a Neapolitan and like a New York slice, not quite as big, a little floppy. Not to get too into a pizza review here, but it's great. It's a great pizza place, and if you're looking for a different kind of style, so highly recommend Supino's, and that's also I actually think has made it onto said pizza reviews as well, both of them, Buddies and Supino. So if you want extra opinions, you can listen to other people's opinions on those places too.
Very nice, very nice. All right, anything else, Joe? Any places you got, bud?
One place that I went in that same trip, it's a newer place. It's called the Brakeman. That one it's not too far. It's a couple blocks from the stadiums, and that is it's a beer bar. I don't believe they brew there, but they have probably 20 different taps. And you walk in, it's kind of has like a kind of arcade kind of vibe to it. Like it doesn't,
Nice.
I don't think they have a ton of games. They have some like shuffleboard and stuff, but they have the garage doors. They open them up in the summer. But to buy beer, they're all the same price. You pay at the door, give them your ID, and you get tokens. So you get a token for a beer.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of all done and streamlines it. So you get your tokens. Once you want a beer, you go use the tokens. But then their kitchen, they do excuse me, they do a fried chicken, which is very good. It's delicious. And then on top of that, they do a biscuit, but they're like honey biscuits, and it pairs with the chicken. And I mean, my wife was pregnant at the time, so it's hard to tell exactly what she thought, but she fell in love with them. I thought it was delicious. So yeah, that's another one. It's easy. Maybe not. I mean, you could go before a game, but that place is gonna get packed, and you're not gonna want to try and order food, or I mean, beer would be fine, but that's kind of a maybe well before the pre-game or after the game.
Yeah,
but that one's great.
Well, good.
I was
good,
just going to say there's another big kind of famous one in Detroit, and I will say I don't want to lose any viewers here, because Detroit is not known for barbecue, and I'm very skeptical of barbecue above a certain like line. You know what I mean? Like northern barbecue can be, questionable at times, but I will say in Detroit, there is a barbecue place called Slow's Barbecue. So this is in an old part of the city called Corktown, which is actually where Old Tiger Stadium used to be before Comerica was created. So if you're going from like Ford Field, it's south towards the river in Canada, and then west, so kind of southwest of there, but not too far. I mean, you'd probably want to drive. You could probably walk. If I had to guess, it's probably like 2 miles or so. um, but it's awesome. It's so good that road teams actually order slows for their players,
Oh
like before
wow.
they get on the bus and
Yeah,
and
they've won quite a
leave.
few awards too. I know that they've,
Yeah.
they've done some like Food Network or whatever different shows, food shows have been there before.
Yes. So again, like I get it. I get, especially if you're coming from the South. I'm there with you. I'm skeptical of Northern barbecue, but that is definitely a place you should check out.
Nice, nice.
I've got one
Well,
more too.
yeah,
Sorry.
go for it. No, go for it.
It's another one that's not necessarily a game day. This could be a post game. It's a high end restaurant in the city. It's called San Morello. Um, it is in which we'll probably talk about later. It's in the main floor of the Shinola Hotel. But this is like fine dining. Definitely need a reservation, and you got to dress up nice. So this would be like a post game, or even like the day before, day after a game.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a great restaurant, and they have a really nice bar within it too, and they do all kinds of drinks, and their drink menu is really good. And like I said, we were there when my wife was pregnant, so we did. She got a really great mocktail. So we definitely plan to go back there. But great restaurant. It's probably one of the higher end restaurants in the city.
Nice. Well, boys, any other place to eat, because we've dabbled a little bit on drinks too, and I want to get to that too, because Detroit has some excellent distilleries, excellent breweries. Like I want to talk about that. But anything else from a food perspective before we jump over there?
Yeah, so there's just one last thing here, and this is going to be something you'll see in the home field advantage. Is I'm a diner guy. I am such a breakfast person, and typically when I go to a new city, I look for two things. I look for a bagel place, and I look for a diner. And there is a diner in Detroit. There's quite a few, but there's one, and this could just be the nostalgia in me, but it is a little bit north of Ford Field. So you could walk it. It's I don't know, maybe like a half mile north
Mhm.
on just one straight road on Woodward Avenue, which is, the main street that goes into Detroit. But it's just called Detroit Coney. And that's kind of what Joe was talking about. So Coney's in Michigan are also like diners, so it's not just
So yeah,
hot
if you're
dogs
looking
and
for a
Coney's.
diner, a kind of
Yeah.
not a trick, but like a good thing to know is if you see something called Coney Island or a Coney, it's a diner.
Yeah.
Like they're going to serve
Yeah,
breakfast, they're going to serve
gotcha.
lunch. So I don't know how well that's known outside the city or outside of Michigan, but if you see something that says Coney Island or even Coney on it, that's what they serve as breakfast and lunch. I
Gotcha.
mean, they'll probably do dinner too, to be honest. But
Good tip. Good
yep.
tip.
Yep, that's your all day breakfast. So that's a great place. It's like I said, I'm not gonna talk it up like it's something that should be winning awards, but it's if you're looking just for like a nice omelet in the morning or something like that, it's a great place. It is open 24 hours. I would probably recommend not going at 24 hours. I would stick to typical daytime hours and probably not go too late or early in the morning. But great place.
Nice, nice. All right, and then let's talk bars, boys. Let's talk about a little boozy here. We know we're going to get some good grub. Where am I going to get something to drink?
Yeah, Joe, do you want to start?
I got a good one. It's pretty obvious. It's called Tin Roof. This one is right next to it's basically right between or right next to Comerica Park, which makes it essentially adjacent to Ford Field. It used to be called Chelly's Chili. Chris Chelios owned it when he played. He started when he played for the Red Wings, and then a couple years after, and he ended up, I guess, selling it, and now it's called Tin Roof. But it's a kind of big, kind of lodgy, like Bavarian Lodge type looking place.
Ooh.
But it's essentially a sports bar. It's a restaurant. They do food and all kinds of stuff. But game days, they have a rooftop. It's right next door to Comerica Field, so you get up on the rooftop, you can pretty much see into the stadium. You're not going to sit there and watch a whole game, but it's definitely a good place to be. They usually have live music. It's right next door, so you can get a beer there and then pop over to the be at the game in 30 seconds. So that's a great place to go for the like true game day feel. It's gonna be packed though. That's not kid friendly really. They have like cornhole and stuff, and they have like a parking lot also, rooftop and parking lot outside, so they have quite a bit of space, but it gets very busy.
Yeah, and they also do like live music when it's not game day stuff. So if you're there like on an
Sure.
off day,
Mhm.
they do have live music. So it's just an all around great place nearby. Another great place is Founders. So Founders Brewing Company started out in Grand Rapids, and they opened a Detroit location. I don't know what it would have been, 10 years at the max. Pretty new, but also a great place. It's a little bit north of the stadiums. Of the most northern stadium is the Little Caesars Arena, and it's maybe I don't know, two or three blocks north of that. But very cool place. Obviously, if you love Founders beers, that's the place to go, and it has a nice little outdoor patio as well.
Nice. Anything else, boys? I do love Atwater Brewing, and that's in Detroit, right? Have you guys been there?
Yes, so I have. I went there briefly. I've only been there once, and I agree. I love their beers as well. But yeah, it's a similar thing. It's a very cool brewery. It has a nice outdoor space when it is warm, and it's in the opposite direction of the city. So if you're looking from Ford Field, a little bit south of that is an area called Greektown. So that's like a big bar district. That's where the Greektown Casino's at, and then that's a little bit further south before you hit the river. So that's kind of how Detroit works, is you have like the center of the city, and then the river is south and Canada is below that. It's actually one of the few places in the country where the America is north of Canada, because Canada kind of swoops below Detroit in that little area. But yeah, Atwater, definitely a great place again if you love their beer too.
There's another one. I can just mention it briefly. I've only been there once, but it's about a block from Comerica on Ford Field. It's called Detroit Beer Co. That one's I'd guess very similar to Atwater. It's just a standard brewery, but it's 5 seconds away from Comerica. So I've been there once, and decent
Can't
food.
beat the location.
Yeah, it's a good spot. So, and then one other one, which is a classic in Detroit, is Checker Bar. It is your standard like hole in the wall bar. It's been around for, I want to say, like 50 years. I did not go for a game, so I'm not sure. I can't speak to how it is for game day. It's a few blocks away from the stadiums, so it's maybe half a mile. But that one's it's cool. It's very authentic. I won't say it's high class by any means. But yeah, that one's definitely a good one to check out for some history, and it's just a cool place to be. I don't know where else to. That'd probably be like the most authentic bar besides like the Old Shillelagh in Detroit,
which is the Old Town Pub.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Checker Bars. Hey, listen, if you're looking to get a Bud Light, a Stroh's, if you're in Detroit, gotta have a Stroh's, a nice Pilsner. That's the place where you're gonna get the cheap beers. So that's what you're looking for: the cheap beers, the bar vibe. You can't go wrong with the Old Shillelagh Pub, and then Checker Bar. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the bottom line is we're for time's sake only going through a few here. Detroit's full of great places, new and old, and so check out our guide for a couple more recommendations.
Yeah, we could post a lot more than we can sit here and talk about.
Yeah, but honestly, it's a place where you're not going to go wrong if you just kind of stumble into a place. You're gonna like where you're at.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for running us through the recommendations for Detroit. As EJ and Joe said, be sure to check out the website. Check out Home Field Advantage. We can get you some more recommendations there, and we'll obviously consolidate all of this. But now, before we wrap up, let's go into a little segment that we're going to do with each of our guests every time we come on here. When you're going to the tailgate, got to make sure, you're not showing up empty-handed. You got to bring a 6-pack. So we got 6-pack of questions for you guys. Just going to rattle these off kind of like rapid fire here. And let's get into it. So first and foremost, what is the one food that you must have on game day, whether it be, at the tailgate, you're going for this, or going to the stadium, there's a certain restaurant in the stadium that you gotta go for. What's your must have game day food?
I can go first. Honestly, mine's probably more like less Detroit centric, like just myself. I'm a big like brat guy, kielbasa guy. So typically, my dad and I have a bit of a tradition for the Thanksgiving Day game where we grill some kielbasa the night before, and then bring them down and reheat them on the grill when we're down there. So definitely kielbasa. It's just enough to get me, not starving, but not gonna ruin my appetite for the turkey and everything after the game. So
No, that's a solid, like that's a good, like that's a classic. That's a staple tailgate food. Joe, what about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in Detroit, I definitely like to go for a coney before the games. But just kind of an honorable mention. Um, one of the best tailgating meals or foods that I've had was EJ was there. We went to a Redskins game and a deep fried turkey.
Commanders.
Well, they were the
Let's
Redskins
not
at the
get
time.
canceled. Let's
They
not
were
get
the Redskins
canceled.
at the time. We went to that game and there was a deep fried turkey that took place because it was right around Thanksgiving.
as the weekend
And
before.
that
Ooh.
was one of the best foods I've had. And not something I've had more than once, but it was delicious. Yeah.
Nice. I love a good turkey cooked non-conventionally, smoker, deep fry, delicious.
Yep.
All right. Question number 2. What is your favorite game or movie that you've been to live? Joe, for you, was it the Barry Sanders game? Was it the 2000
probably.
game?
I was also so young. I think another cool one that I was at was Megatron's last home game in Detroit.
Oh wow.
No one knew he was retiring, but it was at that game. So that was kind of cool too. But then yeah, I mean we also had a cool game in Seattle we went to as well, but the outcome wasn't as good, so I won't talk about that.
EJ, what about you, man?
I'll actually talk about that. So, and this is probably less about the game itself because it's one of those infamous things that always happens to the Lions where something crazy happens, the ref misses it, the NFL apologizes, and then they change the rule the next year. But it was earlier in that season, which ended up being Megatron's last season, which we did not know about in the moment. But Joe and I were walking down to the game early. It was early in the morning. We had our Airbnb that was more, north of the market and everything. And we were kind of walking down towards it. But we had caught wind via Instagram from Kelly Stafford of where the family members were staying, like which hotel. So we went in and thought, what the heck? Maybe
We
we'll
assume
see
the team might be
someone.
staying there.
Yeah, and
Right.
so it's early. It's probably like 9 a.m. or something. It's early. It's well before game time, and we walk in, and there's 3 people in this hotel lobby. There's clearly a person there on business, typing away on a computer, and then there is Calvin Johnson and his fiance at the time,
No way.
just kind of hanging out and texting and whatever, just on their phones, just chilling. And Joe and I sat at the opposite end of the
It's like a
lobby.
conference kind of center, like
Yeah.
it was like weird, like open, like booths and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was all empty except for like 3 of us.
And we sat there for a solid 10 minutes. Like, should we go over there? Do you think he saw us? Because I had like Lions hat and everything. And we walked past him, and I honestly thank God for Joe because I said we shouldn't bother him, and Joe said we should. And so we
I said this is the only we're not going to get this chance again.
No, absolutely right. Yeah.
And we asked him for a picture, and he took one with us. He almost didn't. He hesitated.
He thought about it, and he goes, real quick.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I mean, he looked around like there was nobody else around. It wasn't like there was a crowd.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. We got to take a picture. Actually, we're very thankful for his fiance because she took multiple ones because the first couple she took were terrible. So she ended up took some until they were good. And we'll post that.
Oh, nice.
As I say, we'll post the picture too of us, which was awesome. So then later in the game, like the Lions were driving down the field, and Megatron fumbled. Cam Chancellor stripped him at the 2-yard line, and Bobby Wagner famously swatted the ball to the back of the end zone, which should have been a penalty. It was not, and so the game ended on that call. So it's good and the bad.
Yeah. All right. That was all right. Let's go to the third question here. So who is your all-time favorite player. Doesn't have to be Lions either. Just favorite player of all time.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll probably say, honestly, it's probably Calvin Johnson for me. I love football. I played receiver when I was in high school,
Yeah.
or growing up. And I've always loved Megatron, and very fortunate to be able to watch him live as many times as I did, and obviously getting to meet him. So Calvin Johnson for me.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. And it close second or even tied would be probably Steve Eiserman.
Nice, nice. All right. And then what is your favorite like place that you've been to? Question number 4. What is your favorite like place that you've been to for a game? So let's say Detroit's your hometown. So not Detroit. Outside of Detroit, favorite place you've been to a game. Joe, you go first on this one.
I'd probably have to go with Seattle. It was a
Yeah.
good trip. It was I mean, obviously worth it with kind of our luck there, but the city itself was cool. It was a very walkable city. Lots to do. We were only there for like maybe, was it 48 hours? Yeah, I think that was probably the best one.
Nice. EJ, how about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say the same. And it's because the stadium lived up to the billing. It was very loud, like deafening loud, to the point where like Joe and I sitting next to each other when the fans were cheering on first, second, third down. It was Monday night, but it was like week 6, so it's not like it was a playoff game. But it was very loud, but it was just very nice because you can walk, like there were plenty of other bars, distilleries. You could walk to the stadium. So I would say that was one. I'd say Denver was a close second, and I don't know if it was just
nice.
Denver was awesome, great bar districts. You can walk to the stadium through like a university, kind of buffers the city from the stadium. But neither team was any good, so the stadium atmosphere wasn't great. But I feel like it would have been if it had been a higher stake game. So I'd say Denver was probably a close second.
I go to Denver tomorrow. So how about that? All right. Question number 5. And these next 2 are going to be a little, you're going to have to put your thinking hat on for these. So question number 5. So let's say you get a box to a game, luxury suite, and you get to bring 3 people with you. They can be dead or alive, real or fictional. Who are the 3 people that you're bringing? Now, I'll let you guys think about it. Whoever's ready can go first here. But who are you taking?
I can go. I would take Sean McVay. I think it would be fun to have someone there. It'd be fun.
One, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Did
to have
your
someone...
wife draft him in the coach draft too? That's interesting.
I think she did. I think he's a good time, and 2, I would love to be able to talk football with him. I've always would want to talk to someone that really knows football.
Yeah.
So I'd like to have him there for that. McConaughey there for the good time.
Oh yeah, that's a great combination there.
One
guy who talks super fast and one guy who talks super slow. So there you go.
Yeah, so I'd have those 2, and then that's shoot that. You know what? I'm just gonna stick with those 2. Though I feel like that would just be
don't even
nice
need
trip.
a third.
No,
yeah.
No,
well, with between them, you got enough personality going around. So
yeah. Those would be my answers.
Yeah. Joseph, how about you?
I feel like those are all surprise answers from him. 3 people I'd like to go, dead or alive,
real or fictional.
Yeah.
Oh, I
you bring Harry Potter if you want to, like
I think I'm going to a Lions game with Megatron, Barry Sanders, and I think I'm going to go with the celebrity one. I'm going to go Bill Burr. I think he'd be
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that would be good. That'd be good. Yeah, you
2 Hall of Famers and a comedian.
Yeah, that'd be a great time. All right, last question here. If you could go back in time and change one thing, whether it be for your franchise, another franchise, just anything to change the course of a franchise's history, what would it be? And for example here, like EJ, when we were talking about this, like what if, Bledsoe never went down, right? And Tom Brady never got a chance to start. And maybe he would eventually, but what does that look like? Or like if you're a Commanders fan or the R words as they used to be. Well, if Joe Theismann never got hurt, right? So either goodwill for you or ill will for someone else. What do you want to put, or just something interesting, like what if this happened? Like, what if Michael Jordan never played? Like, what the flu game? Like, what if the flu game didn't happen? Like, he was just too sick and didn't play.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, there's so many Detroit related things. That's the problem. There are plenty of things that I would love to change. But I'll go with this one. So I don't even know the year. If I had to guess, it was probably like 2014 or 16. But the Lions made it to the playoffs. It's the second out of 3 times that it's happened since I've been like a fan, which is super sad. But they played Dallas, and there was a famous pass interference call that wasn't called, that should have been called, and then we ended up losing at the last second. So I would go back and change that. I would end up changing that call, make it pass interference, which would have very likely resulted in a Lions win, and I would have loved to see that them get that monkey off their back to get that first playoff win. And that defense that year was nasty. So
yeah,
you never knew what could have happened had they gotten past that game.
Yeah. Joe, what about for you?
I got a good one. 2002, the Lions would not have drafted Joey Harrington. They would have waited another year and got Peyton Manning.
Oh, yeah, because you figure they probably would have been, don't draft Harrington. Maybe they, finish. Well, where did they draft the following year? Could they have drafted Manning?
I don't know. I have to look at the picks, but I'm guessing they could have probably
made a case for that.
I don't think Harrington was getting them a low pick or a high pick.
Alternatively, they could have drafted Ryan Leaf. That would have been
true. Yeah. I didn't say that though.
Cool. Well, that's the six pack, boys. Thank you very much. And before we wrap up, guys, anything else? Anything else to say about the great city of Detroit, the Motor City?
No, I'll just say it's a lot of fun. This is fun. We're gonna have to do an update, and I'm really excited because the draft is coming to Detroit in 2024. So next April, and Joe and I are actually looking to go. We have some hotels booked just in case the stars align and we're able to go. But I just want to say, like, don't be dissuaded from the narrative around the city. If you've ever been to some of these Rust Belt cities like Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Detroit, they're actually pretty cool once you actually get there. So don't feel like intimidated to get there. You'll have a great time, especially downtown. So that's what I'd say.
Joe, any closing thoughts?
No, my only tailgate tip is like you said, don't hesitate, but check our site for tips and anything you can look up, or if you have any questions that you wish were on there or questions that haven't been answered, feel free to make sure you reach out and we can certainly add that stuff or get the answers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? That goes right into my closing notes, boys. So that'll do it for us. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskeys to stay up to date on all of our latest news. And please check out the Home Field Advantage, as Joe said, at whiskerswhiskies.com. No dot in the middle, just whiskerswhiskies.com. And if you want to contribute to the Travelogue, email us at whiskers.whiskeys@gmail.com. So use the dot, except when accessing the website. Come on, folks.
Do you need the dot for the Gmail? I don't know if you do.
Oh yeah, you do. Whiskers.whiskeys for our address. Just for the website, no dot.
Yeah, I would say technically how Gmail works, you don't need. You could do w.whiskers technically, but we like the dot there. But if you screw up where the dot is, it'll still get to us.
All right, and we'll be sure, and when it gets to us, we'll be sure to share your recommendation with Whiskers and Whiskeys Nation. And that'll do it for us, boys.
Yes, so always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Cheers, boys.